Thank you, Melvin. So today I'm going to tell you more about jump trading uses ClickHouse and Iceberg in particular. So the presentation is how to leverage Iceberg with ClickHouse. And so it will be three parts. So a small introduction. I will tell you about our use case, and then I will do a demo, pre-recorded demo, because I didn't take any risk. Who I am? I'm Arnaud, so I've been at jump trading for over 10 years now, and I'm leading the database team. So jump trading is a financial firm. It's a leading data and research-driven trading business, and it's based in Chicago. We have over 10 global offices, and we trade all asset types, all time horizons. So, for example, futures, Bitcoin, equities, bonds, all kind of financial instruments. And yeah, so my use case, our use case is a bit special because people are thinking that logs are only for observability. And in our case, it's much more than that because those logs are actually recording business information, business data. And this data is actually encoding financial data, so orders and trades and whatever we do on the market. And a particularity of that is that we cannot really lose any bit of that information. And this is due to regulatory requirement because we have people monitoring what we do, and we have to report our activity to the regulators. The kind of size that we have, we've seen a different size this morning, but our one is like not small. So it's between 80 and 200 terabyte a day uncompressed in one single partition. And I think for that particular server, it's about half of what we have total on a given day. So it's about, just in that table, 100 billions of events a day maximum. And so it's a lot of data. We want to keep a year of that data for analytics, and that means petabytes of compressed data. On top of that, we have a latency requirement, which is that the data should be arriving within 20, 30 seconds, and that's the P99 that we get. So 99% of the events reach the cluster with the database within 20 seconds. And as I said, because of the not losing data requirement, we have to reconcile those logs daily, and that's not a trivial task. So we were at ClickHouse conference, so you can guess that we solved this problem with ClickHouse. And we've been using it for over 7 years, very successfully. We like it because it's open source, it's super fast. Also, we understood that when you get good performance out of the software, then you save a lot of money potentially because you can do more with less hardware. And ClickHouse has this habit of doing performance improvement at every release, so I'll show some of that later. It's also very rich, feature-rich, so we can have different data types. We have data types like datetime 64, which is useful for our business, Bloom filters and stuff like that. And also, in addition to being users to ClickHouse, we are also contributors. And over the years, we contributed to making ClickHouse better through the community because it's open source. And so we considered we couldn't do that with a product like Snowflake, for example. You cannot really customize it like we did. Also, very importantly, ClickHouse is not only fast, but its development is getting faster over time. And we see that with the advent of AI. So I talk about my use case. Here's how we implement it, where we realized this use case at jump trading. So we have a very traditional ClickHouse cluster with nodes between 20 and 40 nodes. It's the textbook case for real-time analytics because so we get the low latency ingest by default. And as Melvin mentioned, we can leverage the hardware, which is a very nice property of ClickHouse. You don't get that with other databases like Postgres or even MySQL. So we can leverage the NVMEs, the fast storage, the modern CPUs, to SIMD instructions. We can leverage very modern hardware, fast memory as well. And we leverage two key components of ClickHouse server and in the cluster mode, which are distributed tables for sharding and replicated tables for replicating. So distributed table would be for the fact tables, obviously, and replicated table would be for reference data, and that would be available on each node of the cluster. Okay, so that's the architecture. It's nothing fancy. So we have a red panda cluster to ingest the data coming from thousands of nodes, and then we have ingesters, like basically consumers of that Kafka data, and it's sharded, so it goes to different ClickHouse instance that are representing a shard in this case, and then the users would just come to through a load balancer. The load balancer would pick a node at random and would execute the queries. And of course, we have a ClickHouse keeper that is very nice for replication. Okay, but that is fantastic. But we have new requirements coming as well. So this data is so important that we need other readers to see it. And so, so people came to us and said, hey, we want to export this data entirely in real time. And so that meant that we introduced different kind of workload compared to real-time analytics. And that's to support batch jobs and also HPC sometimes, because we have an HPC infrastructure. And in order to do that, in order to scale that, you need to break the coupling between compute and storage. And so you need to separate compute and storage. In order to do that, you need to switch to files, and in our case, it's Parquet files, and you need to do that on object store to decouple the compute and storage. So I mentioned that we have two different workloads. So we have the real-time analytics one, which is the textbook case for ClickHouse, fast readers, fast writers, high incoming throughput. I was talking about terabytes a day, hundreds of terabytes a day, with peaks at millions of rows per second, 10 million rows per second, and low latency. We want to achieve like 30-second P99, or P9, yes. And at the same time, we want to do the batch processing. So that's typically for the regulatory reports. They are slow and heavy, sometimes for research as well. So with I/O going throughput, people want to export everything, have access to the raw data. And that typically is achieved with I/O latency. And sometimes people come with their workload, don't think even it's a bounded resource, and so you potentially have massive jobs running on top of this data. So that's how we came to Iceberg. So Iceberg is exactly that. It decouples the compute and storage because it's an open table format on top of Parquet. So it defines the table. And so it's scalable. It has infinite retention. You can have multiple readers. So if people want to use Spark, Polars, DuckDB, they can. And why is it a great fit in your use case as well? Because it behaves like a ClickHouse server. You can still see your tables in a REST catalog. You can have tables with partitions, sort key, statistics, deletes, broom filters, and you can you get basically the same features, basically the same compression. Here's the architecture diagram. So it's very simple. We like to keep things simple, stupid. So it's always the Kafka engine for Kafka for ingestion, and then we keep the same cluster, ClickHouse cluster with the same consumers. Additionally, we consume to and write to Iceberg. And it turns out that we do that partially with ClickHouse, like things like ClickHouse Local or ClickHouse Server. They can send an Iceberg, a Parquet files to S3, for example. And so I don't give too much detail of that, but you can leverage a lot of ClickHouse components there. And so the nice thing, too, is that because of the full read support of Iceberg by ClickHouse, you can also use the same cluster that is used to ingest the data in low latency to read Iceberg with an Iceberg engine. And so then you have this unified view of your data as well, so which is a very nice thing. So when you use Iceberg and ClickHouse, well, you really want people to be able to switch from one to the other. That was one of our requirements. And so what we want to do is basically execute the same queries on both. Just the latency would be different. The performance characteristic would be slightly different. And so we can just switch our program from one to the other. And that's why we have this parallel pipeline. We can also keep longer retention on Iceberg. It's cheaper to operate, of course, because it's like you leverage the object store, etc. And as I said, we also benefit from the compression. On top of that, you get all the ClickHouse goodies. So ClickHouse Keeper, you get the replication if you need some replicated tables in your Iceberg cluster, dictionaries, distributed tables. If you want to shard, you can shard Iceberg and have a unified view through distributed table. Also, you have the same access control on both systems. So you have the same users, the same roles, the same row policies. You have very nice system tables, which is a very cool features of ClickHouse, and of course, all the observability, Grafana, etc. The speed of ClickHouse is pretty good. And that's an experiment we did on Iceberg with 20 nodes. And you can see this is a group by, so it's not using the metadata. And you can see that we process here 400 billion rows in 10 seconds. And that's a lot of billion rows per second, like about 40 billion rows per second. And the funny thing is that the 11.3 terabyte per second looks a bit too high. So we went to the bottom of this, and so our agent spoke to GitHub and ClickHouse, and ClickHouse agent said, yeah, it's a bug, and here's the fix. So that's going to be fixed in the next release. What is nice, too, that was already shown for the join this morning, is that the ClickHouse performance is improving over time. So this is an example of a call run on various type of queries. This is the hot run, and yeah, so that's showing a good trend. So in conclusion about those slides, and then I'll run the demo. So querying Iceberg from ClickHouse is very performant. So I showed you some numbers. It's production grade for read workloads. Iceberg v2 is fully supported, and v3 is coming probably in 2026. Write support is also making great progress with inserts, create table, alter, delete, alter updates. More is coming. We're also looking to see the compaction being handled by ClickHouse too. When you have a lot of files on an object store, you need to compact them to decrease the number of files, etc. And also you need to manage the file size. What we notice is that the performance is directly proportional to the number of metadata that you process, etc. So so basically, if you think about it, in conclusion, what ClickHouse is doing in a single process today, we believe it can do in a distributed fashion over Iceberg. And that's going to be fantastic because Iceberg is a standard that's adopted everywhere. And so, yeah. So those are some pointers that we have on Iceberg. So you can go to ClickHouse blog, ClickHouse.com blog. It has a lot of information, including the diagrams that I showed. Documentation provides some pointers, and also it's ongoing work. We're working on making the row groups, for example, be queried in parallel rather than the files. So that's going to be a performance improvement. Also, yes, things like the pre-ware things are going to come. Like all the things that you are familiar with ClickHouse are coming to Iceberg. So time for a quick demo, and I will wrap up with that. So do I need to click? Okay. Maybe Melvin can click for me. Okay, great. So on top you have a ClickHouse cluster, and it has 18 trillion rows. I'm not sure if it's very visible from here. And so then you have the latest ClickHouse version on an Iceberg cluster at the bottom. We have 40 nodes at the top. We have 20 nodes at the bottom for Iceberg. And so I'm going to show how we run queries on both clusters. So one of them is stateless. The Iceberg cluster is stateless. It has just an Iceberg database with a REST API catalog. And so you can see that we have some tables there. And you can even see the table definition is going to use the Iceberg engine. And then I think it's time to run some queries for comparison. Oh, yes, we have the parts. We have ClickHouse merge tree parts at the top, 0 at the bottom, because it's like stateless. It only has an Iceberg catalog. And so time to run the queries now. So this is a simple count. And so it runs pretty fast. So you can see that it's about 56 billion rows, 57 billion rows. And Iceberg even went faster than merge tree. So in this particular case, I must stress that we're not really, comparing both for the sake, because the implementation is different. But you can see that the order of magnitude is about the same, right? Couple of seconds at the top, couple of seconds at the bottom. This is a group by, so it's a query that is more complicated than the count. And you can see that this time merge tree is faster, and Iceberg is still crunching the numbers at very high speed too, like probably couple of billion rows per second. And that's a more complicated query with hash. So we compute the modulus of the hash, and it's also extremely fast, as you can see. So it's running probably faster on the merge tree, but about the same, right? We are talking about less than 10-second order of magnitude. So yeah, and so we wait for this query to finish. Also, the result is the same. Like the numbers that you get at the top and the bottom are the same. And so that's a new cool feature that you have in the client, where you can just press the space bar and you get all the metrics. So you can compare merge tree at the top, how it behaves, and Iceberg at the bottom. And yes, that concludes my presentation.